You're watching Alaska's news source.
This is what we want. We want the war to end. We want there to be peace.
Today on the Morning Edition, talks of peace reach Alaska, how the Ukrainian community is reacting to discussions of ending the war. Plus, parents, teachers, and healthcare providers raising concerns over the potential repeal of a federal disabilities act, why they say it could impact millions. And later, a lifetime of knowledge and a legacy of history. Meet the 91-year-old veteran who spent decades preserving Black history through his bookstore and museum, and why he says his works are more important now than ever as the Morning Edition starts now. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for waking up and joining us here on a Thursday, day before you can make plans and reservations. We're
One more day.
Folks a little heads up for Valentine's Day. That is tomorrow.
Yeah, we know Aaron loves
your favorite holiday.
Can't wait.
It's a commercial holiday.
It's
That's why I despise it. We do have a change in the horizon, though, when it comes to our weather pattern. We are waking up this morning to some clear skies, but as the afternoon arrives, we'll begin to see some clouds increasing from the south, and then overcast conditions expected through the evening hours. And we're also going to see some light snow beginning to spread back across parts of South Central. Of course, the heaviest activity will stay confined to coastal regions, but we will see some snowfall as we continue to see that snow deficit climb across South Central. Currently sitting at 9 degrees, so we're still seeing those chilly mornings, thanks in large part to the calm winds and the clear skies that we have been seeing. And of course, as you head into some of those higher elevations, Hilltop out towards Arctic Valley and then Alyeska, we're talking about nearly a 10 to 15 degree climb in our temperatures compared to what we're seeing at the surface. The colder spot, 20 below in Golcana. Notice clouds already beginning to stream in from for coastal regions. That's also where we're beginning to see some of that light snow showers just to the south of Cordova. And we do have a winter storm warning that has been issued out towards Yakutat that goes into effect tonight. We are talking about some of the heaviest snowfall activity looks to occur from Prince William Sound out towards the Copper River Basin and towards Yakutat. Now, western parts of South Central, we will tap into that potential for some snow tonight into tomorrow, but doesn't look promising that we're going to see any significant amount of snowfall. At best, we may see upwards of about half an inch to an inch of snow accumulation. So there's our area of low pressure we're going to watch as it steadily builds inland. We are going to see winds increasing out towards Valdez, Cordova, Thompson Pass. Be prepared for those winds to increase overnight into tomorrow. But you can see there's that light snow spreading inland. Now, coming up in my full forecast, we'll be talking about where we're going to see that heaviest snowfall and break down that winter storm warning as well as those temperatures we'll see as we welcome in the weekend. I'll have that for you coming up.
And I think we're on the way to getting peace. I think President Putin wants peace, and President Zelensky wants peace, and I want peace. I just want to see people stop getting killed.
A bold claim from President Trump saying he's spoken with both President Putin and President Zelensky about ending the war in Ukraine and that negotiations are now underway. Those talks provide a glimmer of hope, but uncertainty remains. As talks of peace emerge, Ukrainian refugees here in Alaska are watching closely. We spoke with Zori Opanasevich, a Ukrainian woman who has made Alaska her home. She's overwhelmed, unsure of what comes next, but hopeful the end of war is near. As director of the Ukraine Relief Program, she works daily to help fellow refugees, and with more than 1,000 Ukrainians now calling Alaska home, many are grappling with mixed emotions, wondering if peace is finally within reach.
We don't have the emotional capacity to have a big response because it's been so much, and it's just been a lot. And I think that when it happens, there will be a relief. But right now, it's just, this is great. We're going in the right direction. This is what we want.
Earlier, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth suggested that Ukraine should abandon its NATO aspirations. Zori Opanasevich says she's unsure what to make of that statement, choosing instead to focus on what she can control, helping refugees who rely on her organization for support. Today marks 1 week since a Bering airplane went down outside of Nome, claiming the lives of these 10 people. For the first time, a victim's loved one speaks out. Stacy Monker says her husband, JD, was finally headed home after multiple flight cancellations. She texted him several times that day. His last message said he was on his way to Nome. Now, she waited for a final text confirming he landed, but that text never came. Now she says she's leaning on the support of friends and family during this heartbreaking time.
That was amazing. to not just be alone. And then so many of his family members contacting our kids in other states so that they wouldn't be alone, and then getting them up here as soon as they could. Everybody just put forth a monumental effort to support us and be with us and help us.
Monker said her husband leaves behind a legacy of service and faith. In the wake of that crash, Alaska's delegation is pushing for stronger aviation safety measures. Senator Lisa Murkowski says reliable air travel is crucial for Alaskans, especially in those remote communities. She emphasizes the need for improvements, particularly in tracking rapid weather changes that can turn deadly in an instant.
Our technologies will help us get through even some of the toughest conditions, or at least advise us that this is a day that we just stay grounded. And so making sure that that we have systems that not only work, but that are current and up to date.
Murkowski says sometimes some of that equipment goes down. She's working to find out why and how a better safety system can be made. You can learn more about all 10 victims of Flight 445 with additional information on our website and mobile app.
As Anchorage cracks down on homeless camps, residents of Mountain View say their neighborhood is bearing the burden. While the city cites public safety as the reason for clearing camps elsewhere, many question why encampments in Mountain View remain. Community leaders and residents are demanding answers, saying the solution is not just enforcement, but compassion and resources. Lauren Maxwell explains.
According to the city, public safety was the primary concern when deciding to abate this homeless camp in Midtown Anchorage. But some would argue this camp in Mountain View isn't very safe either. What's happening at Davis Park and the snow dump across the street has been going on for years. For many who live nearby, it raises a thorny question.
Why is it being essentially allowed in Mountain View when it's not being allowed around the rest of the city?
That strikes some residents as more than unfair.
If there's camps where there's like predominantly, well-to-do white folks area, they clean it up. But Mountain View and places like Fairview we consider as marginalized neighborhoods. So who cares? So they let it continue to go on.
At a recent community council meeting, the administration promised residents Davis Park would be abated, but it didn't say when. Assemblymember Daniel Boland, who represents Mountain View, says he thinks abatement is overdue.
We're asking one of the lower income neighborhoods to now bear the brunt of homelessness in their part of the community. And so I think it's a tough conversation. There's some layers of inequities there.
But even some who would like to see the park return to the community recognize there isn't an easy fix. They say Mountain View needs help, but so do the people living here.
I'd like to see just a compassionate response.
He wishes the city could offer more. Lauren Maxwell, Alaska's news source.
The city says camp abatement decisions are made on a case-by-case basis, and officials also say it's impossible to provide a timeline until a camp, including Davis Park, is identified and posted for removal.
Turning now to Capitol coverage, Alaska Chief Justice Susan Carney stood before lawmakers with a stark admission: the court system is failing to deliver justice quickly. Her first address as head of the Alaska Supreme Court comes in the wake of a scathing investigation revealing felony cases now take nearly 3 times longer to reach trial than a decade ago. She pointed to a shocking example, a sexual assault witnessed by APD that took 7 years to go to court.
Reducing the number of open criminal cases and the time it takes to get them done is our #1 priority. At all levels of the court, from all of us on the Supreme Court here today, to trial judges and their staff throughout the state and our administrative staff in support of them, we are working to cut down the number of pending cases.
Carney, who has served on the court since 2016, is now its most senior member and is only the second woman to serve as Chief Justice. Joann Fabrics is closing 500 stores, including 2 in Alaska.
That will leave only 300 stores open nationwide. Anchorage's Old Seward store and a store in Juneau are on the closure list. The company says the move is necessary as it navigates the bankruptcy process. Joanne filed for bankruptcy last month for the second time in a year.
It's insane. Like, where are the eggs?
The cost of food has flown the coop. The latest inflation report shows the overall price of practically all goods across the U.S. is up 3% compared to last January. For instance, egg prices. Nationwide, a dozen eggs now cost $4.95 on average. That is up 15% in January and 170% higher than in 2019.
But groceries are only one example. Rent and housing costs are up as well. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve is signaling no plans to cut interest rates until prices start to ease. Bad news for anyone looking to get a loan.
After the break, a lawsuit with lasting impacts. A federal disabilities law faces a legal challenge, and Alaska is one of 17 states pushing for its repeal. Why some say the fight to protect is far from over.
And later, as we go inside the gates, military service can mean distance and sacrifice, but for some, it also brings love. Here are the stories of couples who found each other in unexpected places.
And we are expected to see some snow spreading across South Central. We do have a winter storm warning out towards Yakutat. I'll break that down for you in your weekend forecast coming up. But first, sunrise, 8:45 in Anchorage, 7:33 in Juneau. The full forecast is next.
Good morning, everyone. We're back on a Thursday, 14 minutes past the hour.
Yeah, Mother Nature has treated us so far this week with some beautiful sunshine, Aaron.
Yeah, we're still going to hold on to that sunshine for at least the first half of today, but those clouds will thicken up. By the time you head home this evening, we'll be staying up under mostly cloudy conditions. There is a winter storm warning that goes into effect at 9 p.m. this evening for Yakutat as well as the borough of Yakutat. We're talking about some heavy snowfall expected where we could see the possibility for up to a foot of snow accumulation. That combined with 40-mile-per-hour winds will lead to some lowering visibility at times. And, of course, the heaviest snow arrives late tonight and then last through at least early Friday morning. There's our area of low pressure that we are watching. That's going to build into the northern Gulf of Alaska. And as it does, it's going to make an approach towards Prince William Sound. We're going to see some of those winds beginning to increase, those winds out towards Cordova, Valdez, near Thompson Pass. Be prepared for those winds to increase overnight into tomorrow. That's going to drive in some of those colder conditions as a cold front will be sweeping through the interior as well. And we'll also see some of those winds increasing through the interior later today. Notice those winds out towards Bethel at 32 miles per hour. Notice this trend, though. See these wind barbs pulling in from the northeast. That is a cold front that we are watching, and so those winds will increase for Fairbanks and surrounding areas. You'll see those winds likely anywhere from about 20 to 30 miles per hour towards the afternoon and evening hours. Here in South Central, winds aren't much of a concern, but as that low builds closer to the northern Gulf of Alaska, we will see some of those winds near coastal regions beginning to increase, as well as out towards Valdez and Thompson Pass. We're largely dry for a large portion of the day, holding on to some sunshine for the first half of your Thursday, and then those clouds thicken up. By the time you head home this evening, can't rule out a few flurries, but the better chance for that snow arrives tonight into your Friday. And we will see some light accumulation for the Anchorage Bowl. Heaviest snowfall looks to occur across eastern Prince William Sound through the Copper River Basin and then out towards Yakutat. Yes, we'll still see the potential for some snow across western parts of South Central, but it's going to be on the lighter side. In fact, we're going to see two bouts of some heavier snowfall. Number one, out towards Prince William Sound, Copper River Basin, and Yakutat, and then overnight into Friday through parts of the Susitna Valley. We're going to be talking about the potential for some decent snow accumulation as well, where we could see upwards of about 4+ inches. But we will see the chance for some snow here for western parts of South Central, but it's going to be significantly lower than what the rest of the region will be seeing. So that snow total forecast showing it. We welcome in the remainder of today. Notice very light accumulation by tomorrow morning. You can see many areas across western parts of South Central seeing upwards of about an inch of snow accumulation outside of parts of the Susitna Valley, out towards, as you head towards Hatcher Pass. But notice Valdez, Cordova, the Copper River Basin, out towards Yakutat. This is where we're going to see that decent dumping of some of that snowfall. But don't be prepared for any significant snow across Anchorage down through western parts of the Kenai. This is where we'll likely see, at best, up to an inch of a snow accumulation. I think most locations will pick up about ½ an inch of snowfall. So snow to the north for Yakutat. Elsewhere across southeast, we are going to see those clouds increasing. 20s and 30s expected today. Those clouds increase across the Kenai. We'll see Seward beginning to tap into some of that snowfall later this evening. And, of course, that heavier snow arriving out towards eastern Prince William Sound overnight into your Friday. 1 degree today in Golcana, 32 in Cordova. Those winds will increase into the evening as well, upwards of about 25 miles per hour. Looking at that 7-day forecast, we are expected to see those temperatures steadily warm into the weekend. We're going to be talking about highs next week climbing into the mid to upper 30s.
It's a legal battle with big implications. The Federal Disabilities Act at the center of a lawsuit has many worried that its repeal could affect everything from education to health care.
Alaska is one of 17 states involved, and many fear the impact could be far-reaching. Reporter Joe Allgood spoke with those who could be affected.
The impact to our community, and equally in every state, all 17 states, will be catastrophic.
Section 504, though unfamiliar to many, is now at the center of a lawsuit brought by Texas, Alaska, and 15 other states. The suit takes issue with the law because of a recent alteration made in 2024 that includes gender dysphoria on the list of federally recognized disabilities. Because of that and impacts to federal funding, the lawsuit calls for Section 504 to be repealed. If that happens, some are concerned about the effects on those with disabilities who might be caught in the crossfire.
Like we had several, we all were like, what? That doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
Melissa Wood and Samantha Emerson, both special education teachers, say that they and their students would feel the effects.
In terms of us every day in teaching, we have students with all types of different categories that might have to do more with mental health concerns, physical disabilities, temporary disabilities, learning disabilities, and all of them utilize some measure of accommodations.
Nancy Bale, an Anchorage school nurse, says Section 504 has long protected students who need it, and many more.
And that's what 504 did, and then disability law later that depended on that initial recognition that our society made of how important it was to protect disabled people.
Jennifer Allison, a nurse whose daughter has a congenital heart defect, says she uses 504 every day.
I have navigated so many challenges for that little girl, as all, parents of kiddos do. I can't imagine doing it without having that buffer in place between me and policies and procedures and distance and places and people. There have been many times I've had to fight for her right to be somewhere.
Ultimately, they are all concerned about its future.
So I think it was really shocking. And even within our own sectors that are going to be so extraordinarily impacted, like in the health sector and education, talking to people, nobody was aware of this happening.
And hope Alaskan leaders would take their concern into mind.
I hope that if you're someone that becomes aware of how broad the implications of this potential lawsuit are, that you tell your family, your friends, your neighbors, your fellow Alaskans, people outside of Alaska. This is a nationwide issue. Anyone in the community that you can bring awareness to, they deserve to know. And I would hope that the state would really reconsider participation in this lawsuit.
Joe Allgood, Alaska's news source.
The lawsuit is currently on pause as the federal government assesses its position after the recent administration change.
And we reached out to Alaska Attorney General Treg Taylor, who said the state remains focused on opposing the change. You can find his full statement on our website.
You've been listening to the Alaska's News Source podcast. Subscribe to have the latest episodes delivered to your library automatically.